Hello everyone, I'm Professor Plink. I respond to various theological and ideological questions and claims from a rationalistic and naturalistic approach in an effort to give and explain the opposite viewpoint and help to balance the conversation. Before we get into today's video, shout out to my most recent super thankers, Piao Meow Noir, Tariq Al-Kasab, Martha V, and Triad Mad. Thank you all very much for your kind support. You are the irreligious giant robot lions that form up to fight the space monsters of dogma and mysticism. Thank you for helping me continue to keep the lights on and churn out this content. Now on to today's video. Today we're going to hear from our old buddy Frank Turek, Christian apologist, author, speaker, and founder of Cross-Examine Ministries. And his most famous line that he uses again and again, which he has as the title of his most successful book, and has named his national tour for, is, "I don't have enough faith to be an atheist." Quite a bit is wrong with this simple sentence, but we will get there. Frank likes to talk a lot about faith in general, as well as the faith levels of atheists. So let's get the ball rolling with Frank talking all about atheists and faith.
Frank, let me open up with the question that I know you're well prepared to answer. So Frank, why don't you have enough faith to be an atheist?
Well, because there's a lot of evidence that God exists, and we're using this word faith the way the atheists use it, not the way Christians use it. Faith to the atheist means if you don't have any evidence, you just have faith. And I think atheists have very little evidence that their materialistic worldview is true. And there's a lot of evidence that the Christian worldview is true.
All right, so let's get into this famous line of Frank's, that he doesn't have enough faith to be an atheist. It's pretty clear that he leans so heavily on this line, for one, because it makes for a nice little soundbite or one-liner, but also to try to get under the skin of atheists. As people who have rejected religion, we have also rejected religious faith. And anyone would tell you that faith is a cornerstone of any religion, that it's absolutely necessary for belief in any religious system. So for him to insist that atheists indeed have even more faith than the religious is obviously not going to sit well with the very people who have intentionally rejected faith. So it's already an antagonistic phrase right out of the gate. But then, Frank, I'm curious about what you would consider a person who doesn't have enough faith to be a theist. We all agree and understand that to be a theist of any stripe requires faith. Entire sermons are built around this idea of growing stronger in the faith. God grants us the blessing of strengthening our faith. Have faith in the Lord. Have faith in the Word. Have faith in the prophecy of things to come. Faith, faith, faith. It would be ridiculous to think that it takes no or even very little faith to be a theist. And well, you say that being an atheist requires even more faith than that. So then, what is a person who has such little faith, absolute bottom of the barrel amount of faith, such that they can't believe in a supernatural God being using magic to do otherwise physically impossible things called miracles, and lifting up incorporeal essences called souls out of the bodies of the dead to whisk them off to some alternate, non-spatial realm of eternal afterlife existence? What if my faith is so rock bottom that I can't believe in anything close to that? What would you consider someone like that, Frank? If my faith level is too low to be religious, like people whose faith is around, say, here, and way too low to be an atheist, whose faith level is apparently right around here, then what would that make me? And please, don't fall into that sad line of thinking of so many Christians who would claim, "Oh, well, that makes you an agnostic, not an atheist," blatantly refusing to realize that agnosticism is a subcategory of atheism, and the two are not mutually exclusive, despite the fact that it has been explained to you in a multitude of ways. And before we leave this point about you not having enough faith to be an atheist, I want to comment on another thing that struck me about it. Again, you say it, at least in part, to irritate the atheists. But it's kind of strange that you do a total self-burn and burn on all Christianity in order to do it. I mean, faith is a Christian virtue. It's one of the 7 heavenly virtues laid out in 2 Peter 5 through 7. And besides this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance, and to temperance patience, and to patience godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness charity. Faith is literally the first virtue mentioned. So, Christianity holds faith to be one of the greatest blessings that God can bestow. And you are claiming that atheists have it, not only in more abundance than you, but you imply that atheists have it in greater abundance than any Christian. So, in an effort to twist the screws into the atheist in order to rub them the wrong way, you totally dunked on the whole of Christianity and theism in general by placing atheism as more virtuous than all of it. Was it worth it, Frank?
Now, the true definition of faith is trusting in what you have good reason to believe. Trusting in what you have good reason to believe.
And just where did you pull that definition of faith out of?
My ass.
I've never heard any Christian define faith as trusting in something that you've good reason to believe in. In fact, the Bible quite clearly explains faith in Hebrews 11:1 when it says, "Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, a conviction of things not seen." So it's supposed to be based on hope despite a lack of evidence, a lack of things that can be seen. If you have good reasons, if you have evidence to believe in God and Christianity, then it doesn't qualify as faith. Faith is supposed to exist in the absence of reason, not be dependent on it. And this isn't the atheist definition of faith, as you claim. This is straight out of the Bible, Frank.
And so I think there's a lot of evidence that Christianity is true. So it's easy to trust in the fact that God exists and Jesus rose from the dead and Christianity is true.
I disagree. And you don't offer any specific examples to illustrate it, which I do understand. This is really a fairly short video, and you're just answering some questions about faith. You don't want to wade into the mire of going over various lines of supposed evidence that points to the Christian position, because it would draw out this little interview significantly, and that's not what you're here for today. But rest assured, whatever evidence and reasons you and other apologists claim as good proof of the Christian God and of Jesus' resurrection and the truth of the Christian faith in general have all been addressed by various non-believers. And while you certainly don't hold any of their refutations to be sufficient to override these reasons you allude to, the fact that every single reason or speck of evidence that any apologist has ever offered has been validly argued against, and to my mind at least, conclusively debunked, is a large part of what led me and many others out of religion.
So when you use the phrase that it requires faith to be an atheist, I've seen several of your debates with Christopher Hitchens and so forth. They typically bristle at this comment, say atheism doesn't require faith, it just requires reason. And I love how you respond to this. So how do you respond when people say it does not require faith to be an atheist?
Well, using again the definition of faith that they use, that if you don't have reason, you have faith. I think the atheists have to have a lot of faith because there's very little reason to believe that atheism is true.
There's no reason to believe atheism is true? Atheism is not having theistic belief. It's a belabored point by now, but maybe if we keep repeating it enough, it might one day get into people's thick skulls. A, meaning without, and theism, meaning belief in the existence of a god or gods. Atheism literally means without belief in a god or gods. So, for atheism to be true, all that technically would mean is that there are people who are without belief in God or gods. Now, of course, that is an entire can of worms in and of itself, because then you get into the various theists who insist that atheists actually do believe in God, they just suppress the truth in their wickedness, and insist that they know what it is in our minds better than we do, and we are all just unrighteous liars and blah blah. But no, the point is that theists really need to stop saying, there's no reason to think atheism is true. Frank, if there is a single person in the whole world who honestly doesn't believe in any god or gods, then atheism is, by definition, true. Because that's all atheism is, not believing in any god or gods. So you don't actually mean that atheism is untrue, and it's kind of silly for you to say as such. Atheism stands in contrast to theism, not specifically and singularly in opposition to Christianity. And I highly doubt that you would claim that theism, just theism full stop, is true, because that would mean that you think Islam, Hindu, Jainism, Sikhism, Judaism, and all the other theistic philosophies are all equally true. But you clearly don't. You believe in Christianity above all others.
And they'll say, well, atheism isn't really a worldview. And I say, no, it is a worldview. You believe, for example, that this is the view of most atheists today, that everything's made of molecules, that we're just molecular machines, that we're just moist robots.
That would be materialism or naturalism, not atheism. Whether or not it is the majority view of most atheists today doesn't matter. There's nothing inherent in atheism that requires one to be a materialist or a naturalist. So you don't get to call atheism a worldview that entails materialism just because most atheists may subscribe to it. Any more than someone could say being Christian entails right-wing conservatism just because a majority of modern Christians would be classified as being on the political right. There are plenty of left-leaning Christians who might feel quite put out by that sort of claim, and it would be a foolish one to make, as there's nothing inherent to Christianity that insists on any political affiliation. Similarly, there's nothing inherent to atheism that insists on any philosophical position. An atheist could believe in fifth-dimensional imps who use magic to create our reality. As long as they don't believe in any god or gods, they are still an atheist.
Well, if we're moist robots, Shay, and every thought we have is the result of the laws of physics, which means we don't have free will, we don't have really moral accountability because we're not really making free will moral choices. We're just reacting based on the chemistry of our minds. If that's really the case, then we don't have any moral accountability, and we shouldn't even believe what we believe because we're not reasoning to conclusions, Shay. We are reacting to conclusions. We're not following the evidence where it leads. We are simply compelled to believe what we believe because physics tells us to do so.
Two things on this. First, everything you just claimed is wrong.
Everything that guy just said is bullshit. Thank you.
Even accepting materialism for the sake of argument, nothing you just said tracks. Just because we don't have libertarian free will or the ability to make choices based on some metaphysical motivations uninfluenced by material aspects does not mean we have no moral accountability. It wouldn't even necessarily mean that objective morality doesn't exist. Objective morality could exist in a materialist world as a brute fact of the universe. And our materialistic minds, the molecular machines as you call them, could be sophisticated enough to process and recognize that morality and act in accordance with it in order to avoid any negative ramifications for acting outside of it. And violating that moral standard could come with consequences, such as punishment by legal prosecution, or negative social consequences, cultural ostracization, etc. And the moist robot could be aware of such possibilities, but thought they could get away with the immoral act, and instead got caught and therefore must suffer the consequences of their actions. This is moral accountability from a materialistic framework. The same is true with being able to reason in a materialistic world. Our brains, the molecular machines, are sophisticated enough to process various lines of information and make conclusions based on that data. That is what reasoning is. It's the action of thinking about something in a logical, sensible way. Hell, computers can do that. You certainly don't need libertarian free will or any kind of soul or metaphysical drive in order to reason. A cockroach can reason in a rudimentary way. Then, secondly, none of this has anything to do with whether or not a God exists. This just sounds like you don't like the idea of materialism, so therefore a God must exist because you don't want us to just be moist robots. That's not an argument for God. It's an argument for your feelings.
These are facts, and facts don't care about your feelings.
And so, ironically, atheists who claim to be champions of reason have made reason impossible by their ideology of materialism. So I think that takes a lot of faith to believe that everything you think is just the result of the laws of physics. And you have no warrant to believe it then, if it is just a result of the laws of physics, because again, you're not reasoning freely to that conclusion. You've just reacted to that conclusion without your consent.
And that was all just a complete restatement of what you had just previously said, which is a fallacy called argument by repetition. When you lack better supporting evidence, so you just repeat the same argument again and again, sometimes in different wording, to make it sound like you're saying more than you actually are. So, yeah, again, materialism is not an intrinsic part of atheism. Materialism and lack of libertarian free will does not mean an inability to reason or absence of moral accountability. It doesn't even mean the absence of objective morality, though I would argue objective morality doesn't exist for other reasons. And even if everything you said here was in any way valid, none of it in any way points to the existence of a God. So that was Frank Turek's attempt to explain and justify the phrase that he really has been making the cornerstone of his entire career in apologetics. The idea that it takes more faith to be an atheist. And this is all he came with as a way to justify that saying. All atheists are materialists, which we're not. Libertarian free will must exist because he really wants it to. Misunderstanding of what the word reason means, and restating bad arguments so it sounds more substantive than it really is. Poor quality, Frank. Poor quality arguments indeed. So that will bring us to the end of this video, my friends. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like the video, comment, and subscribe so you'll always be notified when a new video comes out. Until next time, I'm Professor Plink, reminding you to keep striving for greater understanding. It's the best way to get wherever you want to go.